here we are.
Well, welcome to After Hours on this first week of May, actually. I'm Ashley, this is Lisa, and Tom.
The same crew.
So, Lisa, you're going to kick things off with a really important question tonight, coming back to the message on Sunday.
Who's going first?
Who's going first?
Who's on first?
I'm just going to wait for you.
Well, if we remember what Tom spoke on Sunday, as I often forget, but I took notes so I remember, on Philippians 2, he was talking about how, if you guys remember on Sunday, he was talking about how Jesus goes to the very bottom of the ladder, and I thought it was cool because that's kind of what he said at the beginning, and he's talked about this a lot before, and if you guys have done things like CFM or Story Shaped Living and things like that, it's some of this familiar stuff we've talked about, that idea that Jesus goes to the bottom of the ladder. And this is very important because if he goes partway down, it means that we have to go partway up. And this is what Tom said on Sunday. Then you're kind of always wondering, did I go far enough? How far do I have to go? And there's always that thought, right? And then he kind of was talking a little bit. I thought this was interesting how he tied this into like things like when you're having, say, for example, a marriage argument or an argument with friends and things like that. And he said something like, when you're in an argument, are you the type of person, and you guys can weigh in on this too, because I'll tell you how I am. Are you the type of person in an argument that goes, I'm not making the first move here. So when you're having a fight or an argument, you go, I am not making the first move. I'm not saying sorry first.
I'm just going to wait for you.
I'm going to wait. Can you guess what I would be like?
Well, and we want to know what everybody else is like. You wait?
Yeah, do you wait? Are you the type of person that's like, okay, we're in an argument, this is heated, this is intense. I'm okay to say sorry here because I don't like this discomfort, it's weird, I'm not digging this. I'm gonna say sorry because like for the sake of this, I can move into this. Or are you the type that goes, I am not saying sorry here. Like I will not back down, I will not be the first person to say sorry. I am standing firm, I'm not moving forward.
I'm holding my ground.
I'm holding my ground. And I'm gonna stay firm. And the other person is going to say sorry. The other person is going to make the movement first. They're going to make the first move.
Sometimes people aren't quite that harsh, Lisa. They're more like, I'm not making the first move. You're going to have to make the first move, but then I'll be really sweet. Like if you come to me and say you're sorry, I'm not going to hold. I'll be really kind and really forgiving and really gracious. But you got to start things rolling, because let's face it, who's got control here? Who's kind of on the high ground? I'm not giving up the high ground. If I leave my position and go to your position and go to you and tell you I'm sorry or even I love you, then I have to give up the high ground. I have to leave my position, my fort, and come over to your fort. You might shoot me full of arrows.
So we're putting the question out there, but we have to talk about it for ourselves too.
Sandy says, John K. and Karen said hi. Hi. Sandy says both depending on the argument circumstances. I am way more, I am not a both, Sandy. I am way more that you need to apologize first. I'm working on this. Like I'm trying to think this through, and this is something obviously like with what we've learned and what we've come to know is something that I'm not just saying this is what I stand firm in. But I think my default has often been like, I am not moving forward in this. Like I cannot say that I'm sorry first. I cannot move forward. I need to find, and in fact, I was very much like, I will find some way to show that I am not sorry in this. I can't move forward.
Yeah, this is your problem. It's time for even you to pursue me. I always am. For some people, sure. It's like I'm always the one to try to bridge this gap here, to bring things together. Or what you did was really wrong, so I'm not going to say anything.
Can you move your mic closer?
Yeah, Sandy said, can you talk closer to your mic? So I was wondering that because I was sitting so far away.
Tell us if it's not better. Is that better, Sandy?
This is better. I usually sit too far away.
The other thing...
Drag it right to the edge,
Yeah. Is that okay?
Is that better?
Oh no, I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? But it's actually a really important thing because a lot of times, oh, I know what you're going to say. This struck me with your, or what I was going to say. This struck me with your message on Sunday. You said waiting is a thing of fear. It's because often it's because of fear. Now, we were talking about this before, and Lisa, you weren't here for this part of the conversation. And waiting is a huge theme in the Bible. So we're often told to wait. Stand still is God will command things like that, or wait on the Lord. And that's a little bit different. I like the way you describe this. There's a difference between a passive waiting and a waiting that has action
it's faith waiting.
Or faith.
It's processing waiting. It's motion. It's moving waiting. It's not just sitting back and letting things come. It's believing. It's restraint. It's meekness.
It's believing. It even can have for some people, they need to process. They need to think. They need to work things through. Really do that and contemplate and figure out them for themselves. What have been my intentions? What's been motivating that? That's very different. Active waiting, we said. I like that. But then there's this passive waiting that's affiliated with fear. And it comes back to what you were saying, and I could say for myself too, that so often I've been there going, I did last week. I was like, I'm done. I'm not pursuing that person anymore. It's up to them.
Yeah.
If they want to do something and remove this tension, the ball's in their court.
Right.
So what do we do with that? Did people comment on it at all?
John Kay said, I've been there. Moments where it's been hard to say I'm sorry when I felt that the other person doesn't understand me. Yeah.
Because we want to even hold to that. If you really understood what I was going through, then it wouldn't be this way.
Yeah, and it's hard to say you're sorry when you're right. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Here you go.
Totally.
no, but
That's good.
But when you say to yourself, I'm right.
yeah,
You have to be
like
right.
you
can't not be right.
The actual
Upstairs.
you can't all hear it, but
Yeah.
my wife is upstairs laughing her head off right now. But you had the argument because you were right and they were wrong. That's why you had the argument. You didn't have the argument because you realized they were right. You had the argument because they needed to realize that you were right.
Exactly.
Then you guys went to separate corners, and you're still right because nothing's changed, except now they have the responsibility, being the wrong people, they have the responsibility of approaching you and saying the first things is, you were right and I was wrong. We'd love to hear that. We imagine it. We fantasize about it.
Yeah.
Come, tell me, oh, I'm so sorry. You were right. You've always been right. You've been right my whole marriage, or you've been right my whole life. And so we don't go and say, I'm sorry. We can't figure out a way to approach first. And we can't say, I'm sorry. We can't apologize. We can't say, I was wrong. But we can. We actually can if we think, okay, I still think it's true. I still think I was right about the thing we were arguing about. But I was very wrong and unloving in my relationship with you. And we can even start there. Now, it doesn't, if you say that, it's not going to go over well. If you say, I'm still right, but I need to be more forgiving to you. So I want to start by forgiving you. That's not going to go over well at all. But you have to make the move of, I am so sorry for valuing my sense of rightness and my sense of control over this discussion more than I valued you. I am so wrong about that. So wrong.
Well,
and I'm just going to finish
Oh, yeah.
because that's what Jesus did. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, I was going to say the other thing is sometimes even we know we're wrong. We're actually very clear that, okay, I messed this up or what I did was not right at all. But then there's that fear of, well, is grace actually going to work here? Is that going to be enough? what are you going to say to me? Are you going to drill it into my head even more how wrong I was? I'm not really into listening.
So then we're like a bulldog, and we're like, no way, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, like I'm going to find some sort of
That's it.
rationale for
Exactly.
making sure I am right here, even though you're so clear inside of yourself that it's your pride. I resonate with that a lot, where you just, it's like, if I take this step, if I just take this leap and I walk towards Jesus and say, this is all I have right now, I got nothing because actually it was so wrong. What's going to be the response? How's that going to be received? So sometimes I find I wait it out because I don't really want to go there and just, that's my only thing, Jesus.
It's interesting because Sandy says, if I've hurt someone and realize it, it's a lot easier to apologize than if someone has hurt me. It's kind of even the opposite of what you're saying, because in a way, she's saying, like, if she's hurt someone and realizes it, it's easier for her to apologize. Whereas you're kind of like me. If I've hurt someone, it's almost like harder for me to apologize because I'm afraid of, am I going to actually get grace here? Am I going to, and I'm scared of that. So I go, I don't know if I can apologize here because if if grace isn't real, I can't do that. So I'm going to find some way
Okay. So
to,
both of you have
right?
described, everybody would get it. Everybody would get it. Say, yeah, I'm afraid that grace won't be offered and I won't have grace. So it's hard to go there. But Sandy's flipped it the other side now. And she said, but you've hurt me. You hurt me. What can I do with that?
Right.
What can I do if you hurt me?
Yeah.
What can I do? What's the first step that I can take if you hurt me?
It's the same first step.
It is the same first step because
they both require faith and they both require grace.
and so you're afraid to make that first step because it's like you go and you say you hurt me, and the reason this happened is because I was hurt. And perhaps we say I reacted badly. Perhaps we don't say that. We just say I was hurt, and we're afraid that it won't be met with grace. We're afraid that it won't. That they'll be like, well, you hurt me first, or no, I didn't, or you're just being super sensitive, and
That's not really what I did.
that's not what I did,
Yeah.
and all those things that we do to minimize our sin. But we just can't be afraid. We have to trust and believe that love is powerful enough and that grace is enough that we can just say, here's where we are. We were talking about that before this all started. We are just talking about rifts in our fellowship, rifts in the way we relate to people. And we just have to believe that grace is enough for all of it.
Mm-hmm. And then, like you were saying, walk towards.
Yeah.
Like, don't keep the distance. And it's so true that I think we've learned this, Lisa, you and I, in our relationship. I've learned this in my relationship with you too, Tom. But as soon as even you move, something happens. Yeah. Something changes. As soon as you approach it with something else, even if it's just a smidgen of faith, or you don't even know how to do it or what way to go, you actually have somewhere then to truly actually move.
Well, and I thought it was so interesting because when Tom was sharing this on Sunday, I was so much relating to that person, like I said from the beginning of this, like that person that says, I'm not going to apologize first. Like, I'm not going to make the first move, and just relating to my many years since I was a teenager of going, that was such a struggle. But then Tom relating that to how Jesus ultimately, picturing that being in a kind of a argument or whatever with Jesus, and him being completely right in the purest form, and me being completely wrong in my sin, and having some kind of something happen, and him going, I'm going to move towards you right away. And it's like, what? Like that almost, and when I had that picture, I thought, it almost like makes me feel like a bit uneasy, because it's like, wait a second, what? You're just going to move, like, you fully knowing, Jesus, you're totally right, and I know this. You're not in any way wrong. You have every right to be right, and I'm wrong, and I know it. It's exposed, and yet he's like, I'll move towards you. I'll make the step towards you. how does that, it's like, it's kind of overwhelming. And I
Wouldn't it,
thought about that, how that, I don't know. Like
wouldn't it
just
be
how
easy
that
for him to
feels.
say, I don't get you, Lisa. Like, I just don't understand.
It just
I can't relate. Like, I've never been sinful. I've never been fearful. I've never been worried. Jesus never worried, right? I've never been jealous. I've never been proud. Never once. So I just don't really get you. And so it would be easy for him to say, I can't come after you. Right? I can't come into that. But the thing is that's what love does. Love doesn't say I don't get you. Love says I want to get you. I'm coming for you. And I used to ask this question at CFM. I used to ask, what would it be like to have Jesus as a roommate?
Oh, it scared people.
People get terrified.
People, yes.
Imagine never being right in an argument. Like,
Or
Listen,
him seeing everything you do, right? And people are
Exactly.
like,
No, they start with the most important thing. They say, I'd have to clean up.
Yeah.
And I would say, yes.
yes, yes, you do.
but the thing is, if you actually think about who Jesus is, he's not up on a high hill glowering at you saying,
Assessing you.
clean up, get it together. And why are you always leaving your dishes in the sink? And
Well, that's me. His
And-
fingerprints. everywhere.
why are you doing that? Why are you so awful? Why are you so useless? But he's actually way down, helping us, supporting us, loving us, serving us, washing our feet,
Happy to be with us.
happy to be with us,
Even when we're not.
and turning
the
water
great
into
people.
wine, Ashley.
Hallelujah.
But
Clean.
so
Nice wine.
we, but we have to have that picture of what love does. Love doesn't assess from a distance. Love doesn't say I don't get you. Love doesn't say I don't really know how to relate. Love says I'm coming for you. Love doesn't say I can't make the move because you were right or I was right and you were wrong. And it doesn't say I'm afraid to make the move because I was so wrong. And it doesn't say I'm afraid to make the move because you hurt me. None of it. Gee, we hurt him. We've done it all. And he just says, I'm coming for you. And every argument has to end with I'm coming for you.
And it's pretty awesome that it doesn't matter if you're right, it doesn't matter if you're wrong, it doesn't matter any angle, it's still the same thing. Don't keep the distance there. Move towards.
Fight the
love.
distance.
Fight the distance. I think that should be the line right now. Fight the distance. But it's true. And fight it with something that's actually powerful.
Yeah, with love,
With love.
with empathy.
With empathy. Yeah. Yeah. And not all those other things. I feel challenged.
Good. Well, that was good after hours.
Yeah, exactly. But there's some comments here coming in. So first, I saw on
Okay, I
Slack
got
that
some
Shar
online.
said that Jesus would be the best roommate, which I agree. The easiest. No, she said he'd be the easiest roommate. John K said, pretend that there's a person in your life that repeatedly hurts you, though. Do you continue giving them grace? Someone who doesn't treat you well and continues to do so.
It's a really great question.
That is a good question. Yeah.
And
Over to you.
Actually, there's no pretending necessary. I think
That was like the most perfect one. You take this one.
last night,
I was gonna say this comes back to last night.
Story Shaped Living, Ashley asked a question, and somebody responded to it, and then Ashley said, well, let Tom answer that.
I love being over
But seriously, there's no pretending needed, right? We don't have to pretend there's someone. If we don't have someone, we probably will have someone who's hurt us repeatedly. We do. We have people in our life that hurt us repeatedly. Sometimes it's repeated with, and then it's followed with, I'm so sorry, and reconciliation. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just, and we have a
And they're
biblical
not always people we can dismiss from our life,
No.
right?
family
or
members
should.
or friends or
Mhm. Or spouse. Or
spouse.
something like that. Yeah.
So, Hosea is the prime example. It's still such a difficult book to understand and such a difficult book to relate to, where God tells Hosea, I want you to marry this woman who's going to hurt you repeatedly. I want you to marry her. I want you to have children with her. And when she goes off, I want you to go after her. And when she goes off again, I want you to go after her. And when she goes off again, I want you to go after her. Because God wants to give us a picture of what he would do for us. And he wants us to know that he will always come after us. He will always do that. So we often do this in CFM. We do an example of, for example, the prodigal son, who returns to his father and everything's great. And then we say, what happens the next time? If he says, I've had it, and he goes off and does it again, what happens then? Or what happens the next time you and we get right with God and we're forgiven and everything's great, and then we sin again? What happens? Does God say enough is enough? And I think we all feel that way. I think that we can all feel like, I don't even dare pray and ask God to forgive, because
And we talk that way too. You listen to so many people too that are just like, I could never go back to God after all that I've done.
yeah.
It's common speak.
Yeah.
So often.
Now, this is learning about God. First of all, this is how God is with us.
Yeah.
And then the challenge is for us to be like that with each other. Now, there's an interesting thing. It's that you're to be that way, for example, in a marriage. Hosea gives us the example. Keep going, keep going, keep going after. There is a reality, and God recognizes that reality, that in our human relationships, in our broken relationships, with the amount of pain that we have to bear, sometimes we just don't know how to go after again. We just don't know how to do it. And so God says, marriage is forever. It's not forever, it's for life. And God doesn't want divorce. God's not a fan of divorce. But then he says, but I've given it to you because of the hardness of your hearts. And he's not saying that's a punishment. He's saying sometimes it just breaks and you just have to acknowledge that it's broken and move on. Sometimes I don't know how to go after a person again.
Or there's abuse, right?
Exactly.
Like, you're not omitting those cases of...
Sometimes it's just...
Or they say, I don't want you to come after me.
Exactly. Sometimes we just don't know how we can. And we don't know how to do it. And we don't gladly shake off the relationship. But we say, this is less than it should be. I have to stop. I have to stop. And I don't think we should enter that easily. And I don't think we should enter that without help from counselors, friends, pastors, but
Gospel.
Especially the gospel. And I think we're usually called to keep going, to keep going, to keep going. But it is wrong of churches to say, for example, to abuse wives, keep going back. Or to say to abuse children, keep going back. Or to say to abuse husbands, keep going back.
People that don't want to change their addictions or their patterns.
It is wrong for churches to trap people into that. But it's not wrong for us to say, but the principle that we're operating with is we just keep coming after. We just love. We just love. We just love. We just love. Because if that's not true, then none of us have a hope with Jesus. Because I've heard him repeatedly.
Yeah. So we never are going after it alone. That's the other thing. We're going after it with Jesus. Our hurt is met with Jesus every time, or the way we've hurt others too. I
think this fits with the other main thing about Sunday's message was the breathe in, breathe out piece, where I said, don't forget to breathe. It's very important to learn how to breathe. And I think sometimes we've been hit so hard and the life is so knocked out of us that we actually physically can't breathe. We just can't breathe. And those are hard places for somebody to come in and say, just remember how much Jesus loves you. Breathe in. Then just love them. Breathe out. We have to say, man, you're hurting. You're about dead. We have to breathe into you. We have to respirate you.
Yeah.
And we have to pour into you because you can't breathe right now. You can't breathe on your own.
Yeah, well, you gave the analogy from The Karate Kid, right? And
excellent movie.
Profound. We were talking a little bit though how
kind of stupid movie, but that's just so clear.
Actually, though, learning how to breathe, we actually often don't know how to breathe well. We don't. We don't actually properly know how to breathe. So when you get into certain sports and activities, that's one of the first things they teach you. When you're a fighter, they teach you how to breathe. If you're an Olympic weightlifter, you got to learn how to breathe. And and you have to learn that that's going to be actually the source to excel at whatever it is that you're going to do. So we have to learn how to breathe. What you're saying is to breathe in Jesus and what that means, which is challenging because we're not now, because of brokenness, we don't learn that just automatically. We don't actually kind of naturally know how to breathe in Jesus now.
Breathe in just for a second. Do you smell smoke?
A little.
Because my analogy was about breathing in the smoke. And here we are sitting here talking about it, and it's getting smoky out there.
It is. Where's that from?
I hope it's just a brush fire somewhere,
Yeah.
nothing important. But yeah, it's starting to get smoky. And that's the thing, right? Is how do you learn? How do you breathe in Jesus? It's got to be intentional because we live in a polluted world where there isn't very much free oxygen.
We
So
live in Delhi.
Ashley spent time in India, one of the world's most polluted cities, and
You fight for air. You go everywhere to breathe something that just even seems like it's fresh air because there's none. Well,
Yeah.
they said one day it was equivalent to smoking 55 cigarettes a day, which is pretty bad. Yeah.
And even that, I was sharing an illustration with you. I used to work in the fire department, and we would fight brush fires. And it's hard work, it's hot work, it's horrible work. And after a couple hours of exhausting firefighting, you get a 20-minute break, and you just kind of collapse on the spot. And then all the firefighters are zipping down their coveralls and pulling out packs of cigarettes and lighting up. They're all having cigarettes. They're all having a smoke. And I thought, this is the craziest thing. I don't understand. I'm fighting for oxygen. But that's what we do in life. We live in this smoke-filled world. And when we get a break, what do? We go smoke a cigarette. We need to intentionally,
Which can
purposefully.
Yeah, it can be so many things. It's like I just need a break. I just need Netflix. I just need this. And that's not always all bad. It's fine.
You know what? Even having a cigarette on this, if that works for you, it works for you.
Glass of wine.
But you need oxygen. Is what you really need.
Yeah, you still need to feed your soul with something. You still need a real fresh breath.
It made me think of breathing through labor.
Because we have a new baby in the church.
I know.
now.
I was thinking.
Brianna.
Look at that because we saw on Slack with Brianna with Candace, just going through that. But it made me think of like when I had to breathe the most when I was in labor and pain, because you're in like the most excruciating pain ever, and the only thing you can do is breathe, and you kind of feel like I'm gonna stop breathing because I can't handle this. But the only thing that you have to do is breathe, because if you actually can focus on breathing, it moves you through the pain. And if you can control your breathing and focus on it, it actually will get you through and move you through and relax yourself and move you through the pain to move you into.
It's a huge tool for anxiety. Yeah, it's a huge tool for dealing with pain, for dealing with anxiety, all those things.
If everybody remembers the day of practical advice at the anxiety sessions, I gave 3 words of practical advice, and everybody remembers them. Do you? Breathe, move, and take your vitamin B. But with that analogy, then, what does it mean? What are we doing? What are we
drinking my craft beer? John cheese.
No.
Never.
Although the news is telling us that the craft beer breweries are being hard hit right now. So maybe, John, it's going to happen regardless. But nonetheless, breathing is to breathe in, Jesus' love. To breathe out, loving others. And you can't breathe one way. You can't just keep breathing in, because eventually you can't take anymore. You have to breathe out or you can't breathe in. And you have to breathe in or you can't breathe out, obviously. So we have to develop that rhythm in our life of doing both and being intentional about it. Intentionally thinking about, how does Jesus love me? Intentionally thinking about, how do I love this person?
Yeah. Yeah, and they work together, right? Because sometimes if you're not experiencing Jesus, the best thing you can do is go help somebody else. It helps remind you of Jesus, right? Even in our depression and our moments of
Yeah.
where we're low and we just don't want to do it at all, that can sometimes be the most helpful thing is to go help someone else.
I was thinking about this week because this week I was battling like so much depression for some reason. I think I've said this even the last couple of weeks that I was surprised I wasn't having more of like I wasn't experiencing more bouts of this, but it kind of hit me more this past week. The the feelings and everything of depression. So I was kind of expecting it, and then it started to creep in and everything. And I was going, okay, I've been here before, I've experienced this before, so I kind of knew what it was. And as I was feeling it, I was going, okay, I know how this feels. I know what this is. And I know what I typically usually do in it. You kind of, and if you've had depression before, you kind of want to like go back into your snail shell and go, you know what I mean? And just like sit at home and you want to pull back away from everything. But I was thinking about it and I said this to John and to a few people and stuff. I said, it's like now is the time, and I've learned this. I did not do this the first several times that I've battled depression in different bouts. But I realized that I'm like, this is not the time to back away, to hold off from from praying, thinking, believing, trusting, and not in the sense of I need to believe, I need to pray, I need to do these things because that's why I'm depressed. So if I do these things more, I won't be depressed because I'm depressed because I'm not believing enough and I'm not praying enough and I'm not.
Yeah,
That's not why. It's different. There's a difference there.
Right.
But the difference for me, what I'm learning is I'm depressed and I cannot let up. Now is the time where I cannot let up in praying and thinking and trusting and believing. Like I have to go full force into that because if I don't, I'll sink further in and the depression will grow further and grow bigger and grow more. And even that sense of I want to pull away, I want to pull away, right? That's that second piece of that's breathing in. The second piece of breathing out is I want to pull away. I don't want to be with people. People want to hang out. They want to go for a walk. They want to do this. And I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to, right? That's what it's everything's telling me. But then going, no, I need to move towards. It's like what we said last week with humility. I need to move towards. I need to move towards people. Because I know, even though I'm not feeling it, and maybe some of you guys feel this way too if you're battling bouts of depression right now, I often don't feel it. I don't feel like I want to do those things. But I know in my heart, I'm like, I know moving towards is helpful. I know when, like you said, when I see this person, when I'm reminded of this, it's going to be good, it's going to be helpful. So it's like, it's that, like, you can't let up, but you also then have to move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to ask this question though. What do you say to the people that haven't yet seen those patterns in their life where they know to trust that diving in, staying, not moving away, not letting up, in your words, is what's going to sustain you and help you? Like you have to keep pursuing and pushing and moving forward. How do you cultivate that in your life? Like, how did you cultivate that? Because I remember in my early days, it was like 1 minute I remember, and the next minute I was off, who knows where. And not even literally, just even in my thinking or in my mind, or I was afraid of what people think, or terrified of something else. So what do you say? Like, what is that process like?
I think, how do I say this? I think it's like, I think it's two things. I think part of it is going, like, I've learned what it looks like to not like
Pursue.
And
What does that look like?
you sink further and it's hard and you go, I'm sinking further and I know what that depression looks like as it gets further. But then the weird second part is it doesn't matter how far I go, the beautiful piece is Jesus is like, I'm always there. And this is kind of the ladder, like you can go to the very depths of wherever, I'm always there. And so in a weird way, it doesn't even matter which direction I've gone ever. I've discovered even in depression, he goes with me everywhere and he rescues me everywhere and he redeems me everywhere, kind of. So I've almost realized because of in depression, I'm always rescued. There's always freedom in it. There's always love. He always comes down. He's always there with me.
Yeah.
And he's always there to free me, to bring me out, to you know what I mean? That now when I look over my shoulder, I go, I can trust him. He's not going to leave me. He's not going to abandon me. He's not going to. So it's almost this weird thing of like, I can go forward. I can fight. I can pray. I can remember. I can believe because he's not going to abandon me. But it almost had to come with going, oh no, I'm sinking further. Oh wait,
Is he
he's not
really
leaving
going to be
me.
there?
Oh no, I'm
yeah,
going this
yeah.
way. Oh wait, he's not leaving me. Oh wait, I fell even further than I thought. Oh, I can go even farther. It doesn't matter. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it almost had to be this weird thing of going, even now, even this week, I had days of going, oh no, I'm back here again. Is this going to last forever? How far am I going to go? And almost there's this piece of knowing it doesn't really matter. He's got me. He's there. It's going to be okay. But there's also the sense of, okay, I've been here before. And now's not the time to let up and stop praying and just go, I'm going to sit in a corner and like
eat chips.
I'm going to go for that walk and I'm going to like pray and I'm going to, even though I don't feel like it, I'm going to answer this phone call or whatever, right? And move in because I know those things will be helpful, but I also there's a freedom in knowing even if I didn't do any of those things and I sat and ate chips,
Jesus is still there.
he's still there, right? And he brings me out. He will.
Yeah,
right? I don't know.
Exactly. I'm even thinking of a passage in Jeremiah where Jeremiah says, heal me, O God, save me. And it's like, I don't even know what to do right now, but reach me, touch me.
I love the way you described it, because that's the way Job describes it. Job says, I don't know what's going on. He's in such pain. He's in such self-doubt. And he says, I want to know what's going on, and I'm trying to find God in this. But if I go north, I can't find him. And if I go south, I can't find him. If I go east and west, I can't find him. I can't find him anywhere. Then the very next verse, he says, I can't find you. And then, but you have found me. You know where I am. You know the way that I'm walking. You know where I've been. Every time when I was hunting for you, you already had me. You were with me. I love that, because you can't. You're struggling, and you go, "Where's God in this?" And the answer is, He's right here. Somehow, He's got you, and it's rich. It's full. I was thinking of someone wrote me today about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. And Nebuchadnezzar warns them if they don't bow down to his image, he's going to throw them in the fiery furnace. And their answer is, God's able to help us. If he's able to deliver us, we're not afraid. He's able to deliver us from the fiery furnace. But even if he doesn't, we're still going to serve him, which is really cool, right? And we kind of love that part. But then you go on to the next thing, and they go in the fiery furnace, and what happens? There's 3 in the furnace, and then Nebuchadnezzar says there's 4. There's 4, because where is God? He's with them. He's with them. But there's always 4. Like last week, you said it was always Thursday, and God's answer is there's always 4, Lisa. There's always 4. I'm always there.
It takes time though, right? We breathe in a lot of things that aren't helpful all around. The heat's on right now. There's so much more heat, which means our lungs are full of smoke. And we have to breathe the clean air. But we also have to know, we have to rid ourselves of what's dark inside of us. And that's a process too. That doesn't just change always. It builds, but it doesn't mean even in the midst of whatever it is that we're feeling, that we're not actually able to breathe in what's true and real in Jesus. Any more questions?
No more comments so far. But I had a question from the sermon that I was thinking about when he was, that we can ask you guys.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this? But when Tom was talking on Sunday, I was thinking about this as he was sharing the sermon. We were talking about when you said, like, we wait when we're afraid, we wait to move ahead. This kind of goes back to what we were saying before. And my question was, and this kind of links to even what we're talking about breathing. I said, what ways has fear held you back from moving towards, right? Because fear does that. It holds us back from moving towards each other. And then also, what would it look like to be freed of this fear, to breathe, unafraid, loving each other? Like even practically, what would that look like? Even right now, like we said, there's tension, it's hard, right? And there's fear even in some of the tensions and things like that to move forward, to move towards each other. But what would it look like to breathe Jesus, be free, be unafraid, and move towards, move.
That's a great
just
question.
Picture it almost even. Like what would it look like? You know?
Well, even another way you can put it is, if I removed fear, what would I be doing? What would I do in terms of this relationship?
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking against what the government's told us to do or anything like that, but what would I be doing? How would I respond to this person? What would I be doing when I wake up tomorrow morning? What would I be feeling tomorrow morning? All of those things, like you said, that exercise to go there in our mind, to play it out, and then have faith and to walk forward in that. Yeah. It's a great question. What would look different? Yeah. Can you think of anything?
Yeah, I was trying to think of like relationships and things like that, and going like, if fear wasn't part of it, how I would see people, how I would love people, and how much more I would enjoy even pursuing people. Enjoy, you know?
I agree with
fear
that.
Fear just makes...
I've even thought a little bit, I have sometimes this like, oh, I haven't kept up with some of my sisters enough as I could, or enough with people, and I go to the people pleasing thing, which is all fear based, right? Yeah. Or they're probably not happy with me. I haven't really contacted them. You eliminate that, and then you just enjoy the fact, I enjoy you. I enjoy this relationship. I love who you are. I love what we have. I love that we share something else. And you don't go to, what did I do right? And what did you do right? And what did I do wrong? And what did you do wrong?
Yeah.
It's eliminated.
Yeah. Or even like you and I said last week, we haven't seen each other in a while. Does that mean we don't love each other? Mm-hmm. Does that mean we're not?
Or should I question how you feel about me?
Yeah, we haven't seen, are we not as good of friends as I thought? Are we not this? Are we not? So much fear. Just to go, I'm not afraid. Like, I'm going to go into this unafraid, free, knowing love, and I'm just going to go after it. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to move, and how that would look, how that would feel. I think joy would come out a lot more. The joy isn't there as much, I think, when there's so much fear and there's, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it squashes the joy for sure. Or the appreciation or the love that exists.
Yeah, John G says fear is definitely crippling. It is. It like makes you just feel like, I can't. That's often how I feel.
What we've been saying here is that fear gets in the way, and fear cripples, and fear smashes the joy. Flip that around the other way, and Peter says perfect love casts out fear. So instead of what is fear going to do to me, it's like, no, what am I going to do to fear? I'm going to come after it. I'm going to love. And if I can love like Jesus loves, if I can care, if I'm going to love, I'm going to enter into that, fear can't exist. If joy doesn't exist where fear is, fear doesn't exist where love is. So
say that again.
If we have said joy doesn't exist where there's fear, yeah. Let's flip that around and say fear doesn't exist where there's love.
Right.
And then joy can grow. Okay. Well,
this has been After Hours on May the 5th.
We have a pretty cool intro. Now we need an outro.
Exactly. Tune in next week for more incredible material and insight.
That's right.
What?
We love all of your comments.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah, thanks for your comments.
Who's going to be here next week?
You are. Yeah.
Bye, Al.
Bye. Good night, you guys.